2020, the swim is canceled. The bike is canceled. The run is canceled. How are we going to deal with it today on the Do Hard Things Today podcast? So 2020, wow. We are in August of 2020. This will probably drop in September. And it's like I'm almost afraid to start September because you just don't know what it's going to bring. It seems 2020 keeps throwing so many things our way. But on the Do Hard Things Today podcast, a lot of what we talk about is the physical things we do: running, biking, swimming. We do all kind of things, ultras, Spartan races, all of these different things. Today, we're still going to talk about those and the effects of losing so many of our races this year. But we're also going to head on over and talk about that mind of ours and how do we keep our mind in the game when it seems like there are no games to play right now. So we're going to be talking about that. We've got longtime friend of the podcast, Miss Katie Malone, is with us again today. I think this is your third time on.
I think so, but I'm not counting.
Yeah, she's not counting. Oh, she's counting. It's a crowning achievement of hers to be on this podcast, right? Hal.
Oh, yeah.
We got Hal Marsh over there. Hal, how can everybody find us? It's been a little bit since we've been on.
Oh, we're on iTunes, of course, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and you can ask Alexa to play the Do Hard Things Today podcast, and she will.
It'll just start up. It'll just start slam. Man, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some videos that are going to be hitting. We're going to be doing some videos, some little how-to videos. It's going to be a lot of different things. We're going to have some nutrition stuff on some cooking things. We're going to have some that are going to talk about some biking, setting up the trainer. We're going to be going into the cooler months now, and a lot of people will be doing train. So we're going to do some of that stuff. Hal's really good at that.
Yeah, we had one on the little Zwift.
Yep.
Intro.
And some core workouts, some things like that. And then just some other things. We're going to be talking about not only the physical things, but leadership, family, finances, different things, some business stuff for those of you who are interested in that. So we're going to be doing a lot of that stuff on the podcast coming up. So we look forward to you continuing to be a part of our family. We've got, gosh, how many was it? That was at 12,000.
I hadn't looked lately, but
what you said the last time.
Yeah, 12 to 15,000.
And I think we're over 10,000 people on our Facebook page now that are liked or followed or whatever it is you do in Facebook land. But we're just glad that you're a part of the group. So the state of triathlon. Probably, I can't think of anybody in this area. We're in the upstate of South Carolina, halfway between Atlanta and Charlotte, for those of you who are listening all over the country. That's where we're located at. And in this area, I can't think of anybody that's more connected to the triathlon universe than Coach Katie. And obviously, you alluded to it when we were talking before that, gosh, you've just been dealing with so much with your athletes, with yourself, everything. How would you characterize the state of triathlon right now in 2020?
Years ago, I used to have a saying that I always would give all my athletes, and it was adapt and adjust. And while that was a long time ago that I came up with that, I think that 2020 is the year to adjust and adapt, because if you don't or can't or refuse to, you're not going to get anywhere except just frustrated and down in the dumps mentally.
Yeah. Well, and that's the emotional end of this. It is frustrating to. This is a time whenever you're a speaker, you look down and it's like, hey, the lady over there, turn your phone off.
I hit the music. I'm so sorry.
You're fine. So what are the emotions? You deal with a lot of different athletes. You're connected to so many, not only that you coach, but that you're just connected to. What are the big emotions that you're seeing, and maybe talk about some of the different ones that you're seeing from people right now as they're dealing. Because like I said, we're in August, and it's sometimes it seems like it's almost the gift that keeps on giving of, oh man, this race got canceled. And if you're in any kind of Facebook groups of like the Ironman groups that are race specific, every day you go on there and there's like 5 or 6 different people. But hey, what do you think the chances are? And it's like nobody knows. I mean, nobody really knows. But it's just like this. You're just almost waiting for the inevitable to happen. What are the emotions you're seeing, and how are your athletes and those dealing with it? And what are some tips you would give to those that are listening that are dealing with those emotions right now?
Good questions. So first of all, I mean, I think if you go back to March when this all started, this hit right before the first triathlon of the season, which is the Paris Island Sprint down in Beaufort, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And I mean, all the athletes that I coach were so disappointed and so upset that race got canceled. But at that point in time, everybody thought this was just a temporary thing. This was going to be a couple weeks. We'd be back on track. Things would get back to normal. It would all be okay. And then another month goes by, and it was pretty evident at that point that things were not going to be okay. This year, school all of a sudden's canceled. All the parents who used to train when their kids were in school or when their kids were doing sports or other things, they needed to be home with their kids doing homeschool. So everybody's world just changed. And I mean, some people had more time on their hands. Some people had less time on their hands. And so it became a very individual thing. Like I couldn't just say across the board, okay, everybody, we're just going to stop training for a race and just go back into maintenance mode, because we didn't know if the races were going to be canceled. So I kind of got into it as a coach. I was like, well, where are you personally? How is this affecting your family? How is this affecting your finances? How is this affecting your stress? Is training going to help you, or is it going to hurt you? And, for some people, it was really it became almost impossible to train. The pools were all closed, so you couldn't swim. And so the frustration was just mounting. And so I really, for each person, I talked to them about their individual situation. And I was like, you know what? If you can't swim, or if you've got other things that are causing stress in your personal life, you might need to cut back on the training and just do what you can. If that means a 3-mile run, if that means riding your trainer once in a while, if that means just going for a walk with the dog, that's what you need to do. There was no one size fits all. I couldn't go through my roster of athletes and just be like, okay, everybody, that's it for the season. Some people were really energized by the virtual challenges that started to come up. Some people didn't want any part of anything virtual, which is fine. And again, it is so personal. I mean, it's kind of like choosing your religion. Do you wear a mask? Do you not wear a mask? I don't know what the right answer is. I only know what's right for me. You only know what's right for you. And that's where with the triathlon, so many people just with the races, do I race? If they have the race, do I want to race? Do I really want to go hang out with 2,000 other people right now in the middle of a pandemic? Maybe not. And so, they had to make a choice that was right for them. If people said, I don't care if they're going to have this race, I'm going to be there, then we kept training. We continued the training, because either way, you build on your training from year to year. It isn't like if you do all your training this year, say you train for your whole Ironman and then they cancel it, it isn't like that's not a deposit you made in your bank. Yeah. I mean, you still have that foundation, but some people weren't motivated by that. And some people were like, I'm done. I'm going to roll it to next year. And they made that choice early. Again, very individual choice.
And I think it goes to the fact of these journeys that we're all on, and what part does the race is a different thing, I think, for everybody. And what I mean by the race is I'm talking about the literal race. It is
in person. Yeah,
the in-person race is an important thing. I mean, and we talk about the journey. The journey is so important. I mean, the journey, being able to overcome obstacles, prove to yourself you can do things. But for some, that crowning achievement is the race, getting the medal, and right, wrong, or indifferent. That is the main thing for them. And I think having all of that taken away was just it was a almost crippling blow to some people. And like you said, for others, we were talking about someone else a while ago, that they understand it's the journey and that this is a piece of the puzzle. And okay, and I'll just say this, and you'll probably talk about this later, but we're pretty much in September now. If 2021 rolls around and we're able to race and do things, well, then you don't want to look up in March and be like, oh shoot, remember last March I was in good shape, ready for that first race, and now I am just a ball of mess. And so I think that's something to remember, that hey, we talked about it in the Dopey one, I think, the last time of answering that question of, is the Dopey Challenge going to be canceled? And I said, all I can tell you is this, is that one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to train, the race is going to be on, and you're going to go and you're going to kill it, or you're going to train, the race is going to get canceled, and you're going to be in some of the best shape of your life, ready for next year. And I think that's understanding that. But I think with the difference in triathlon that I've seen is most people have a series of races they're participating in, and it just stinks that they just keep getting. I mean, I remember we were at your son and my daughters were in the little kids triathlon just a few weeks back.
Yeah.
And we were sitting in lunch, and I said, man, it felt so good just to be at a race. I mean, we're talking about a small,
40 kids.
Yeah, not a big production, but and it just felt so good. I was telling my wife, I said, did you feel that energy that was there? There's just an energy of being there. And I think people miss that. So how do we stay motivated? We alluded to it, but when they're all being canceled and we're about to go into the dreary time of the year, when we get to when the daylight savings changes, how do people stay motivated when there's really not that big bullseye that's out there waiting to be hit right now? And even some people are probably thinking, well, 2021, are we even going to race in 2021?
They're going to have a vaccine.
Yeah.
We're going to race in 2021.
I agree.
They're going to have a vaccine.
Yeah.
I thought a lot about this just from a personal standpoint, but also, how do I advise the athletes that I work with? So in everyone's best interest. And the one thing that kept coming back to me is triathlon, training, working out, whatever it is that you do, whether it's lifting weights or running or cycling, it's more about like how it makes you feel mentally versus just physically. I mean, we all feel good, because we're fit. But when you lose that motivation to do your race and you lose the motivation to train, mentally it just really starts to wear on you because you just don't feel as good. You don't have the same energy levels. And so that's where I think a lot of people need to dig a little bit deeper and find their true motivation. Like, am I doing this to win a race, or am I doing this so that I am fit and healthy to play with my kids or my grandkids, or just for longevity? But also when you think about sport, and I always, like, my motto for my coaching business has always been longevity in sport. I don't want somebody to train so hard one year that they're like burned out and never want to race again. I want people to be able to race from year to year, enjoy it, hopefully improve, but also learn about themselves along the journey. And so in longevity in sport, this year has been a time personally for me to rest more. And every time I'm on here, I'm like, well, you need to sleep, you need to rest, you need to recover. Because it's one of those things that we forget about. It's so easy to forget about because it just seems too simple of a task to do. Resting can't help me. But personally, I chose this year not to run nearly as much because I'm like, if I'm not going to race, I'm not going to waste my legs killing myself running virtual challenges that don't really motivate me. I mean, I'll run my 3 miles. I'll do my strength training. I did strength training all summer. Now, normally I don't do that because we're racing. And so it's okay to change the timing of everything for this summer and for this fall. And really, when we go into the fall, in my mind, fall is cross-country time, cross-country running, or mountain biking time. And so it's like the seasons are still there, and we're still able to get out there and start, really engage in a running program. I mean, you've got the Goofy or
Dopey.
The Dopey. I'm sorry.
Oh, shortchange me.
The Dopey. Oh, right. The Goofy is only when you do only two of them.
Two, right?
Oh, right. Okay. The Dopey. So that's like a really big challenge where you've got to be working and building your miles. But like in the fall is such a good time to run. You're losing daylight hours. You don't have as much time. It's just a good time to get out, and it's cooler. It's a good time to hit the trails and get outside and run. And in the winter, you've got usually like some trail events that you can do, or marathons if they have them in the winter. Hal, you look like you have some input on what the fall is good for.
Oh, I can't wait for this humidity to depart us.
Yes, this morning was 100% humidity, I think.
Yeah, I've been doing these 5 a.m. 100% humidity, just bath runs.
It's
bad.
I sweat so much, and my shoes, they're the world's worst. And then there's nothing you do, and they just stink. And they're like brand. I have to go through shoes, not because I wear them out, but because they get where they stink.
You need to stuff them with newspaper. Have you tried that?
I have not tried.
Do you know this trick?
So
when your shoes are soaking wet after you run, you take newspaper, like real old school black and white newspaper. You stuff your shoes with them. Yeah. And that newspaper will absorb all the moisture out of your shoes. You can wear them by the evening.
Just right after the run. There you go.
And that works for bike shoes too.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Good. We get asked that question all the time in our stores. Hey, my feet, my boots just stink afterward.
Newspaper.
I'm not saying that they won't stink, but at least they will dry out.
That's right.
Take the moisture out of them. Because I will literally, take them off and I'll stick them up on my dash of my car and just let them dry right.
Bet your car smells great.
dry right. Well, I mean, when I'm driving home, I take them off because they're so. I sweat so it sweats through the bottom of my shoes. So I can't even walk in the house with them on because I get fussed at because I leave tracks all over the place. But
it's been humid.
I like that little tip. I'm respecting that one.
That's my tip. Okay.
All right. The next question I had sent you, you've already answered, but I want you to expand on it a little bit. What can we learn from this season? And I think you've already answered that. The adapt and adjust. How do you? I don't want to make it that simple.
It's not.
Yeah. Expand on that a little bit.
So let me expand on this season to say that the season, every season, no matter what season it is, whether you go into your season and you have your Ironman coming up and you break your leg, you are forced to adapt and adjust. Yep. And sometimes, it's injuries that happen. Other times you have personal issues that happen. And this year, we had a pandemic and nobody was racing. So for the first time ever, everybody was in the same boat in terms of there are no races. We are not racing. But my favorite analogy of this year, and I'll be honest, I'll just use it for myself, is that if you take the alcohol away from the alcoholic, they have time to recover from their addiction. Okay? I'm not saying triathletes are addicted or anything, but it isn't a bad thing to have some time away to reflect, to recover, to work on other areas of your life that you might have been ignoring, because you were so busy training. And I think that there's a lot to that. Like if you start digging a little deeper within yourself and you see for me, I love to race. I love nothing more than to actually be in the race racing. Don't love the pre-race time so much. After the race, just it's fun to celebrate. But to not have that, to be able to run off to, it makes you kind of be at peace with yourself and ask yourself some serious questions like, where am I? Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that I just wanted to share when I was thinking about your questions.
Yeah, and I think when things start back, people are going to be more grateful, have thankfulness. When they start back, stuff that we've been taking granted of, and people are just going probably just go all out.
Yes, I'm a little scared of 2021.
Yeah.
Hey, well, you know, you mentioned that. I've seen this with school of, you know, it was spring break last year,
Mm-hmm.
and of course they go out for spring break, and then we're going to extend spring break for 2 weeks, and I remember almost daily I had a senior that was graduating, and I remember almost daily I would answer, Dad, when do you think we're going to go back? I mean, because they thought I knew, but nobody knew. Nobody
Right.
knew. I mean, and I was like, sweetie, I remember it started. I was like, I think we'll go back to the beginning of May. I said, I'm how confident are you? I was like, I'm 90% confident. A couple days later, I'm 75%. It was like, then it got to be like 50-50, and then you realize, oh, we're really not going back to school this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then when we come back this year, and even though they're only going 2 days, it's like I remember pulling through the car line, and I was so grateful to be in the car line.
Have the car line.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
No, I mean, really. I mean, I really was you know,
Some sense of normalcy.
some things we take for granted, and you think about racing and how trivial that seems in the big scheme of things, but it's still something that's very important to us.
It's not, because it gives us a break from day-to-day life mentally, and a lot of us need that. Like, if you work a lot, you need a break, and you need something fun to look forward to. And racing isn't only physical, it gives us a chance to be social.
Yeah.
And, you know, I honestly didn't realize how big my social network was in the triathlon community. I mean, I knew it, but until you really start missing those people that you only see them at races and you only socialize with them at races, you're like, wow, you know, our triathlon journeys on the weekend, you know, you're all going to dinner, you're staying at the hotel together, you have breakfast together, you go to the race together. And all of a sudden, like, every weekend we're at home. And I mean, it's been nice to be at home. I have got lots of projects completed, but they're all done now. I'm ready to get back to normal.
Yeah.
Ready to get back at it. So 21's right around the corner. I think we all feel like now this is a plastic table we're knocking on, but we're going to pretend this wood. I think we all feel like, and everything is trending towards the vaccines coming. Let's make the assumption that 2021 is a back to semi-normalcy as far as racing. So we're September now. What does a general over these? What do people need to be doing to prepare themselves for when the seasons start back, really in March, April? Kind of just walk us through what they need to be doing.
And I mean, again, for everybody, it's going to be a little bit different depending on what you've been doing this year. But like for me, since I was like, I'm going to enjoy this recovery, I'm just going to do my strength training, you know, swim in the lake when I feel like it. I'm going to do whatever I feel like, which has been great. But I also know if I want to be fit come March, it's time to, you know, get back on a little bit of a schedule just with the running. It doesn't have to be a ton of distance, but find the consistency again, get back on the bike, you know, do something that resembles training. And for everybody, that's going to be different. But if you've taken this year off, you better get back to work now.
Yeah, it's time.
And I'm gonna share a little personal thing. Of course, you've got a nice way of kind of pointing things out and doing it, and I get it.
I try.
But you mentioned that word consistency. And this is something that I've done really good with in one area, and I really laid an egg in another. In talking triathlon, there's 3 disciplines. Let's talk about let's not talk about nutrition and everything else. the swim, bike, and run. Let's talk about those. I think a danger we have, and I think it's for everybody, is we kind of go to what we like and what we're seeing results in. Well, I've been doing, and you saw all my bike workouts.
Yeah.
Because I love them. I love the train. I love to just
leave a puddle of sweat.
Get on the trainer, and I mean just
but look at the improvement.
Yeah.
Look at the improvement you've made.
And I have, but I've made decisions like, okay, I'm really busy this week. And I start thinking something's got to go. What is it? And then you get down and so I have gotten really, really improved my strength on the bike and my power on the bike. But where am I going with this? Right? Yeah,
But we all do it.
But I did think I hate swimming. I just and I number one, it's a bad attitude. You can't have that attitude and improve. But
I don't know where he heard that.
But what have I done? What I've done is okay. This week I didn't get any of my swim workouts in.
Thanks for telling me.
I didn't get any of them in. And Grant, has it been every week's busy though? I've made the decision to not get those in. The other ones, the bikes, the runs, awesome.
Hey,
really,
that's progress.
It's progress in those. But I think that a danger that people can run into over these next few months is if I keep doing that, and then when we get in obviously got the Dopey coming, but the next big race is Chattanooga 70.3 in May, and then Lake Placid, end of August, end of July. Then I'm going to find myself in February, March, and be behind the 8 ball and thinking, okay, listen, come watch me in the pool again, because I'm still struggling. I think that's worth mentioning, that you've got to be consistent in what you're doing, and not just the things that you're really good in.
But it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be doing like Ironman training in September, but you just have to be consistent. Your bike workouts, they're usually an hour to an hour and 20 minutes at the most. Yeah. But you got to hit that 3 times a week, period. And you do. And you've improved greatly over the summer doing that. So, at least you still have something that you can say, okay, I did improve. I did do some good work. Now I've got to kind of add some swimming back in. But with the swimming, you have to give yourself grace. Go twice a week. Make a commitment to twice a week for 30 minutes. Even if you don't get the whole workout done, get in the pool. And honestly, most of the time, getting in the pool is the hardest part. Yeah. I have a pool downstairs at my house. I have to walk down the stairs and get in it. I don't do it that often because I just don't feel like it. Yeah. I don't have any excuse, but I need to start getting back in the pool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is, and I think that, what's your, what do you get? What's your go-to? It's like me, I mean, what we're talking about is if I'm going to do something, and it changes with me between the bike and the run, but I think I've had so much, and you're probably like this, I've had so much success lately on the bike, as far as I'm talking about seeing big chunks of gains, that it makes me just want to get on. Like tomorrow, I've got it looks like it's that VO2 max workout. It looks like that's a really hard work. It's supposed to be a really hard workout. But I'm like,
you're ready to go.
I'm ready to go. And I was like, it'll smash me, but I can't wait. Then I look, I was like, well, I got a 30-minute swim.
But it's a 30-minute swim, and that's the thing. You can do it. It's just a matter of recommitting yourself to look at your goals like long term and say, well, what do I want? And I really think the fall is a great time to just, and especially after this season or lack thereof, is to look at next year and go, okay, well, what races do I have that got pushed out to this year? So I'm definitely doing them, even if that wasn't my original plan. What races inspire me? What races scare me? I was like, and I was thinking about that this morning when I was running, and I thought, I think I need to do Mount Mitchell Challenge because that kind of scares me enough to really train. And I was like, but boy, I'm going to have to put in a lot of running miles to be able to do that. Do I really want to do that?
Wait a minute.
The
What are you
run,
talking-
Mount Mitchell run,
It's
trail run.
it's a trail run.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was about to say, wait a minute. You're at Mount Mitchell and you're talking about running. So you're talking about the trail.
The
dude.
trail.
Oh,
Mount,
okay.
Mount
yeah.
Mitchell Challenge. It's usually, I think, sometime in February, and it's where you run from downtown Black Mountain
Mhm.
to the top of Mount Mitchell on a trail.
Oh, wow.
And you run all the way to there's like a guard shack up on top. It's 20 miles out and 20 miles back.
Oh, wow.
And the trail is not a groomed trail.
yeah.
It's rocky. Sometimes it's icy. Sometimes you have to carry crampons with you. It's a serious race. Like, you don't want to go up on top of Mount Mitchell in February without feeling really confident in your abilities, because it's you carry your stuff with you that you need, and off you go.
So it is back. It's there and back.
It is there and back.
Cool.
So you run up and then you run down.
Okay.
So it's a beautiful race. But I was just thinking about that because I was like, last time I went to do it, it got canceled. And so I was there ready to race, and they said, nope, you can't go to the top. They'd let us do 13 miles up. And I mean, I did it, but I wasn't real excited about it because where's the challenge in that?
Yeah.
So, it's like thinking about what you really want to do, but then are you willing to do the work to get you there? Because I was like, well, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to need to definitely push my running a little bit more now. And then all my swim runs that I like to do, they're all pushed to next year. And so it's just, you've got to adjust everything. You got to look at, like, what do you really want to do? What else do you want to throw into what you are rolling from this year to next year? And I would say write it out on paper, because you need to really look at how many weeks you have in between big races. And you have to be very careful this year laying your year out, because otherwise you will get in trouble where you're racing so much you don't have time to do the training to get the kind of performance you want from the big races.
Yeah.
Expand on that for a second. You may talk about this in our follow-up podcast where we talk about Hal's try, but when people talk about things like A races, B races, that kind of thing, can you explain that? And when you talk about setting up a calendar of races, how do you go about, how do these pieces fit? In 2021, here is my main goal right here. This is the race. If this is what I'm aiming, is that how you do it? How do you?
I'm usually going to work backwards. Like, say you've got an Ironman the end of July. I'm going to say, okay, we've got 16 weeks of training going into this Ironman. You can put a half Ironman anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks out from your Ironman. Otherwise, I don't really want to see a lot of little races on your calendar, because that's going to mess up your training. Unless you plan to take days off in the middle of the week to do your long rides, which some people do. Some people can. It's a great way to be able to compete on the weekend, but too much of that, you're going to mess up your training. Yeah. Like, basically I'm saying you're going to do a 100-mile ride on a Wednesday and then go do a sprint race on a Saturday. That doesn't sound like you're going to perform real well, but it can be done. And if you just enjoy racing that much, sometimes it's worth it. And I've done it for years. I don't always recommend it, but you've got to really look at your calendar and how much space you have in between races. So say you got a half Ironman 6 weeks out from your Ironman. That's fine. You got about a week of recovery and a week of taper going into that. So you just kind of have 2 weeks that aren't going to be as hard. They might be swim heavy before and swim heavy after, depending on how you perform and how hard you race. Yeah. And so it's like you really have to take things like that into consideration. And if you don't know how to do that, like, talk to somebody who's raced a lot, talk to a coach, like, spend an hour with them, pay them. It's worth the $40, $50 it's going to take for a consultant to actually tell you, no, that's a really bad idea. Yeah. It will save you lots of heartache, injury, and suffering.
Yeah, and that's 100% worth it. And you can, I know you've kind of changed up your coaching. You're still coaching,
yes.
But kind of changed how you're taking in people. But that is to have, no matter how smart you think you are and how well you think you know yourself, to have somebody else that's looking at it and helping, evaluating what you're doing and what you've got coming on, asking the right questions, it is invaluable.
It's saving you from yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do it. I have other coaches that I respect that I'll be like, hey, here's what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think? And they'll either be like, oh, that's a bad idea. And that doesn't mean I necessarily always listen. But if I respect them, I'm usually, and they know me and they know my abilities, I'm usually going to be like, well, I probably need to let that one thing go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So before we get into the good news that you've got about a race, I'm going to ask you both this question. Does discipline breed motivation, or does motivation breed discipline? And here's how. Does discipline, do you believe that just establishing just the discipline of, I'm going to make myself do these things, I'm going to have the discipline to do this, then that brings motivation, that produces motivation as you see results and you see that, okay, this is who I am? Or do you have to work? Is it more important that the motivation, which is just I don't know if it's the mental, I don't know how we would really define that, but you got to get motivated, and then once you get motivated and start, then the discipline will come. What do you think?
Go ahead, Hal.
For me, a goal creates my motivation, having goals out there.
Yeah.
And then discipline comes in with doing the things necessary to achieve that goal.
So you would say motivation first, and then that creates
the discipline.
Your discipline to do that.
Yep.
What do you think?
I say 100% discipline. Sorry, Hal.
Oh.
I say 100% discipline because motivation, it wanes. I mean, it's a day-to-day kind of mood swing. If you're disciplined, if I've set my alarm clock, I'm going to get up, I'm going to do this. This is the way my day's got to roll. That's all there is to it. It's just it comes down to discipline because so many people don't have the motivation. Yeah. So, are you motivated because of a goal? For sure. Does that help with the discipline? Probably, but I think discipline has to come first. Yeah. For me, it does.
And these things kind of walk hand in hand a lot of times. But I think it's important to think about those two things right now because of there is seemingly so little external motivation. Correct. To do these things. It's that internal motivation, which I think internal motivation, I would almost define that as discipline, where you're internally motivated to do that. I've seen that happen in some of the things that some of my workouts and some of the decisions that were made of just do it, just get out of the bed and do it, start.
But when you're consistent and you start to see improvement, that's where the motivation comes from. Yeah. Because now, like just for you as an example with the cycling, like you've been consistent, you're seeing improvement. Now you're more motivated than ever because you're like, wow, I'm actually doing better. I'm doing these work, and like it becomes fun and it becomes motivational.
Yeah. But I think the motivation, it still is a big. I mean, I love when I open up the Training Peaks. I've got to see something up there at the top of that page.
Yeah.
And it says, right now, everything else is. And I just, as soon as I get kind of just delete them out. So I can't even see them. I don't want to see them anymore. Dopey Challenge, X amount of weeks out. And so I enjoy seeing those. But all right, so some good news. We actually have a race that's not canceled. Tell us about
not canceled. That's our motto. Not canceled.
Tell us about the Ache Around the Lake and its big brother. What is it?
The trauma.
Oh my goodness! Tell us about the trauma and the Ache Around the Lake and how people can get involved in this.
Okay, so years ago, a friend of mine said, "Hey, let's have a run around Lake Lanier," and I was like, "Huh." And this was 15 years ago, by the way, because this is the 15th annual Ache Around the Lake. And at that point, I had never put on a race, but I thought, hey, how hard can it be? I've done a million races. I can put on a race. I know what goes into it. I'm organized. I can make this happen. So we made it happen. And I mean, the first year, I don't even remember how many people we had. It was not big. We got sponsors. We went out and asked everybody or begged, hey, can you give us $50? We're putting on this race. And people were like, oh, whatever. Okay, here you go. So now kind of life has come full circle again. And the race was given a year later to St. Luke's Hospital Foundation. Foundation is basically the arm that raises money for equipment for the hospital. Our hospital in Polk County is actually an independent hospital. It's owned by the community.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is like a unicorn, okay? You don't see that anywhere.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of needs. So this race has, over the years, really raised a lot of money and done a lot of work inside the hospital. And last winter in February, I toured the hospital because I was going to be a member of St. Luke's Foundation board. I toured the hospital and they were pointing out, oh, look, Acre Around the Lake, the funds from Acre Around the Lake purchased this, and the funds from Acre Around the Lake did this. And I thought, wow, I need to step it up and bring new life to Acre Around the Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, I became motivated. I thought I need to really do something different with this race, get more people involved, just get the word out, because I felt like the race had just kind of fell off everybody's radar. Nobody even knew about it. And so that's when I started thinking, what else could we do? And I thought, oh, let's go climb Hogback Mountain. That's a trail.
Mm-hmm.
But because there's another organization that actually owns the trail and the grounds, they would not let us do it because of COVID. And so I was a little bit, disappointed, because I thought, wow, we can't go on a trail because of COVID, but okay, we're going to follow the rules because this is for the hospital foundation. This is not for Katie.
Mm-hmm.
So I came back and I thought, okay, I can come up with another course. So then I came up with what is now going to be known as the trauma. And basically you do the Ache Around the Lake, which is 1 lap around Lake Lanier.
5 miles, right?
4.97. It used to be a certified 8K. It's not certified anymore, but it's still an 8K.
Yep.
You do 1 lap around the lake, then you finish that lap and you go off and you do a quarter of a lap, and then you run off on some other back roads and kind of run out further, and you end up with 12.4 miles. I thought about trying to make it a half marathon, but after seeing the hills and that, I figured, you know what? People are probably going to be good with 12.4. We're going to call it the trauma. We have a hill that we're going to call Hospital Hill.
So I know the hill.
You know the hill. It's on Lake Road.
Yes, I know the hill.
We're going to call it Hospital Hill. Yeah. We are going to have a cheering squad out on Hospital Hill. They'll all be in scrubs. So we're going to have some fun with it. Right now, we've got 170 people signed up.
For the trauma?
No, for the Ache
Yep,
and for the trauma. And we also have the Ouch, which is a 2-mile, nice and easy. You can walk it with your family, or it's just like an easier run. And then we have a free mile fun run for kids. You still have to sign up because thanks to COVID, we just don't want everybody showing up and trying to figure out things on race day. But it is free. You just have to sign up.
How you doing the 5 miler?
5 mile.
Yep. I'm gonna do the 5 miler, and I think my at least one of the girls is gonna do the 2 miler.
Yes, good.
And, she'll do that, and so that's now. How do people? And we can put a link in the show notes and then put it on the Facebook page. But where do they go to get signed up for this?
If you look at SLH Foundation, St. Luke's Hospital Foundation.org, you can find a link to events and then click on Acre on the Lake, and all the information is there. I also believe if you type in Acre on the Lake, you can find us too.
Yeah. Probably not a whole lot of things named Acre on the Lake. Yeah. Or the Trauma 12.
No, and we're going to, before the race, we're going to have the tables separated out where people pick up their packets. We're going to go old school. We're going to hand out a bag with your T-shirt with all your stuff in it and your number. So we're taking your temperature. If you're under, the regulatory, 98 degrees, I guess, you get your packet, you can go race. If you have a temperature of like 100, we don't want to see you. So we're really trying to be super safe, wear masks before the race. I'm giving everybody a little plastic baggie to put their mask in so that it doesn't get wet while you're running. But we just want to be safe. But we feel like, again, what I said before, for mental health, people need to be able to have something to look forward to. Yeah. People need to be able to get outside. We're starting runners. We have waves of 20 people about, and we're letting runners off one at a time. I mean, you could not get much more safe than our race.
Yeah, it'll be good. You can do those. You can do them. I ran the Brew 5K. How long ago was that? 3 or 4 weeks ago. Again, it was blazing hot. Oh my goodness, it was hot. It was so hot. But they did the same thing where they started in real smaller waves,
right?
And you get off real quick. I mean, you
do.
Yeah, and
it's fine. It's just a matter of doing everything, because we're going to be under a microscope. I mean, this event does represent the hospital, so we've got to be super careful. And so every precaution that could be in place will be in place. We've got lots of volunteers out there just to remind everybody to stay separate, you know, just be careful, be safe. Don't go run and hug your buddies when you see them.
Limit the high fives.
Yes.
Elbow bumps.
Elbow bumping. Exactly.
Well, I mean, I think you're right. I think you talk about the mental health of being able to get out and do something like that. I mean,
this is
people need it.
This is for mental health, and that's what, you know. There have been a lot of questions like, how can you, as a hospital, support having a race? And what we come back to every time is being healthy, being active, and being mentally fit, like having something to look forward to, running a race, and the endorphins that you get. I mean, it's just good for all of us. And because we live, I mean, this race, even if it's big, we're going to have 200 people. That's not big. So we can do it because we're still relatively small.
Yeah, well, you know, and you're taking precautions. And at the end of the day, at some point, you know, people have to make the best decisions for their families and decide what's the comfort level. You know, your husband and I, when we did the big handshake, and you like gave us both the stink eye.
Pass out the hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you doing,
She
you
gave
two?
us a stink eye, and we're like looking at her like, oh, yeah. But it's, you know, it's a new normal. I mean, I'm a toucher. I'm a handshaker.
I am too.
And it's hard to. But it's, you know, you take the precautions, you do. People don't get offended when you, even if you reach out and shake their hand, they give you the fist bump, or they do. I mean, it's okay. But I would encourage you to get out and do this. It's a great opportunity.
And it's for a good cause. We are raising money for 3D mammography. And, you know, seriously, who doesn't know somebody who's been affected by breast cancer? And so all of the funds raised go directly to that, which is why I'm keeping the costs as low as I can with the race. But I will say that our awards this year are pretty awesome. For Acre on the Lake, you get an ice pack, a reusable ice pack that's called a pain cake.
Oh, no.
And for the trauma, the top 5 men and top 5 women get headlamps. Rechargeable headlamps.
Nice.
I mean, the awards are pretty cool. I was like,
yeah.
hey, we're going to have some fun with this. But the pain cake, ice packs for the ache and the trauma, you know, come on. You've with a race with name like that, you got to have something good.
Oh, yeah.
I like it.
And everybody who finishes gets a handmade, like it's a handmade piece of pottery, metal on a ribbon. They're beautiful.
Ashtray.
No, we're getting it. No,
giving out ashtray.
It's a metal. It's literally a metal. They're really pretty.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. And I had no idea that was a community owned.
Yes, nobody knows.
Yeah.
It's a secret, and so that's why every chance I get, I'm telling everybody, no, our hospital, it's owned by our community, and that's just so rare. And the hospital is actually run by a board of volunteers.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And those people give a lot to the hospital.
That's cool.
That is.
That's cool. Good story. Good times. And just, hey, stay motivated. 2020, but 2021 is right around the corner, and I guarantee you, it's going to be hard to find the person that is not up at 11:59 December to make sure that 2020.
Everybody wants to ring out 2020,
and 2021 is here.
2020 is canceled.
Yeah, 2020 is canceled. I saw the shirt that's got the little stars on it. It says 2020 would not recommend 1 star. That's,
nice.
That's pretty good. But, Coach Katie Malone, we appreciate you coming back on.
Thank you.
We're going to have you on for a follow-up podcast as we give Hal Morris the diagnosis as he has dipped his toes in the triathlon world. So that's coming next. But as always, follow us on Facebook. Join all the groups. Download us if you can give us a review. That always helps. But until next time, just remember, if you will just do the hard things today, tomorrow will take care of itself.